unmarked vehicle. I think they crashed his car.
Elmer, that's my sister. Elmer, it's my one.
It has never been more difficult in American history to hold a federal agent accountable for violating your constitutional rights.
My mom offered to drop me off that day, so I was very thankful. She doesn't like the freeway, so she's always taking streets.
It was a typical morning for Andrea Velez, a routine ride to work for the 35-year-old production coordinator for a shoe company.
Everybody was in a rush, so we were just trying to get here on time.
Her mom, Margarita, behind the wheel. Her sister, Estrella, also in the car.
She just drops me off here in the corner.
And what did you guys say when she pulled up to the curb?
She just said, you have everything, tienes todo lo que todo, and then she said, cuídate.
Be careful.
Be careful. Yeah, that's our usual, just be safe.
But that Tuesday, June 24th, 2025, Andrea suddenly found herself in the middle of an ICE operation.
So I used my bag to protect myself, and that's when the ICE agent just slams me onto the ground.
Did you know they were federal agents at that point? Who did you think they were?
No, I don't know. I thought they were like robbers or something like you see from the movies.
So you get up off the ground.
Yeah.
And when you get up off the ground, you see the stranger running back at you.
Yeah.
What do you do then?
He's like, I'm gonna arrest you for interfering. He kept screaming that.
And that over there is where the ICE officer grabs you.
Yeah, somewhere within the middle of the street, they decide to pick me up and make a parade and bring me back to this location.
This is the video that's gone viral. Andrea hoisted across 9th Street.
And the officer says you hit him in the face and you stopped him. When you saw that in the criminal complaint?
I thought that was insane because I'm very small and I don't hit anybody.
Andrea says the federal officer put her in the back of a vehicle, but stressed there was nothing indicating it was a law enforcement vehicle.
So there was nobody in the car except for myself. And that's when I heard the helicopter and the police coming with their cars. And I saw them get out their cars, so I started knocking on the windows with my hands. And then I tried all the doors, and one of them opened. And that's when I decided to run towards them and ask them for help.
So you sprint across the street.
Yeah.
And you get to an officer. What do you say to that officer?
I tell him that I need help. I've been kidnapped because I didn't know who they were.
The uniformed Los Angeles Police Department officers did not intervene. We asked LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell about Andrea's case. He says it's not the only time his officers have had to stand on the sidelines during ICE operations.
We don't interfere with their mission. We don't assist them in their mission. We're prohibited by state law from doing that. We're perceived then by some as helping ICE. We're perceived by others and damned for not helping ICE. So it's a very emotional topic.
So you're not getting a courtesy call before they move into a neighborhood or a location?
We're not. It's a surprise to us when we become aware of an action.
As Andrea was loaded up and driven away, her family watched helplessly. Younger sister Estrella called 911 and took this video.
Elmer, it's my one.
What were you feeling in that moment as you were recording that?
I was feeling very scared, upset at the same time because I couldn't do anything.
After 2 days in custody, Andrea was charged with a felony, assault on a federal officer. This statement is from DHS. Quote, Andrea Guadalupe Velez was arrested for impeding an arrest after she forcefully obstructed an ICE officer by making physical contact with him. For questions on charges, we refer to the Department of Justice. Before Andrea's case was ever presented to a judge or a jury inside federal court, The government dropped the charge without prejudice, meaning that charge could be reinstated at any time. Andrea has since lawyered up.
I thought it would never happen to me, and that day it happened to me, and it changed my life. Maybe if we all collectively start these lawsuits, then maybe there might be some type of change. There might be just some type of justice for not just me, but for everybody.
We are in a moment where it has never been more difficult in American history to hold a federal agent accountable for violating your constitutional rights.
Searching for answers on just how and why it is so difficult to successfully sue the federal government led us to Burlington, Vermont. Harrison Stark is an expert in constitutional law and director of special projects at the State Democracy Research Initiative.
And I think the main question that we're hearing is, I am an American citizen. If I feel a federal agent or a federal agency has trampled on my constitutional rights, what's my recourse?
Over the past several decades and into today, the answer is unfortunately not much. This is a problem that goes back long before this administration. Rights are only as strong as their remedies. And a right without a remedy is really just a guideline. It's a suggestion. If those things aren't real, if they're essentially just guidelines or suggestions and not enforceable rules, we have a very, very different relationship with our government than I think many people think we do.
So what do you do? Can you do if you feel you've been harmed by a federal agent? Stark says there are 3 options to bring legal action. A criminal case, but charges are usually decided by the state, and in the case of a federal employee, they are incredibly rare. A Bivens action is a path for seeking damages against federal officers for violating constitutional rights. Created decades ago by the Supreme Court, they have since radically scaled it back to the point it's not a real option. There is also the Federal Tort Claims Act, which allows for a civil lawsuit, but it only applies in limited circumstances and contains a lot of procedural barriers and loopholes. Stark says none of these options give American citizens any real chance for success. Your best bet, even though difficult, would be a civil suit. Monetary damages can act as a critical deterrent.
We rely on the threat of potential future money damages to incentivize industries and individuals to be really careful. If a doctor really egregiously hurts somebody, they're on the hook for malpractice and a lot of money. I'm a lawyer. If I really egregiously mess up and say someone loses their house, I'm on the hook for a lot of money. And that incentivizes the professions to have really high standards and to do everything they can in advance to prevent these harms from happening.
For American citizens, while the 3 roads to recovery are paved with obstacles, Stark stresses this problem could be easily fixed. An existing law called Section 1983 is a civil rights law giving citizens the ability to sue state and local government officials, including police officers. State agencies have paid out millions in compensation, but Section 1983 does not apply to federal agents. Congress could change that at any time, but it's unlikely. But here, on the shores of a blustery Lake Champlain, there is one idea Stark and other legal experts say could usher in winds of change. Some states are passing a law modeled on Section 1983 that would apply to federal officials. It's called Converse 1983, a state law that would allow citizens to hold federal agents accountable, much like local police.
Who do you think should care about this issue?
I think everyone should care. Whether or not the government has to respect your constitutional rights and whether or not you have any recourse. The Constitution doesn't discriminate against Democrats or Republicans or anybody else. If it's not you today, it could be you tomorrow.
We're in Washington, D.C. today for a public hearing. U.S. citizens from across the country all coming together to share their story. Their stories are unique, but what's happening isn't.
On this December day, a familiar face from the West Coast, now on the East Coast.
Andrea, how you feeling?
I never thought that this would happen to me at all.
By Andrea's side, Javier Ramirez, another American citizen and California resident, who says he was unlawfully detained by federal agents.
With me, I'm not even into politics or anything like that. Pretty much, I'm just a hard worker, just go to work, and pretty much it. Never thought I would actually be here.
This is my first time in DC. I always get the jitters, like I get nervous, but then I try to overcome it because I know that it's not just for me, it's for everybody else, and it's very important that I share my story.
We're very grateful to all of you.
In this room, 5 American citizens. They have all been arrested and detained by federal law enforcement during recent immigration sweeps across the country. None of them are currently facing charges.
This voice and face you're giving to this issue is historic. And again, we're very, very grateful to you.
U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal and Congressman Robert Garcia extended the invitation. They've been leading public forums, highlighting concerns over alleged constitutional violations of American citizens by federal immigration agents.
I hope today to shock the conscience of America. I hope my fellow citizens will recognize our fellow citizens as possibly themselves. It could happen to them too.
The bill as amended is passed.
Just last year, the rights of American citizens got personal for Senator Blumenthal when a handful of his Republican colleagues placed a last-minute provision in the government funding bill that would give senators, and only senators, recourse if their constitutional rights were violated.
When you read that, Senator, what went through your mind?
I was shocked that U.S. senators would give themselves a privilege that is denied to all other Americans.
The provision, quickly struck down after backlash on both sides, would have given senators the ability to sue the federal government for monetary damages if personal information or phone records were accessed by a federal agency without their knowledge.
We will never give up. We will never concede.
Which is what happened during the investigation into President Donald Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
I was outraged that my colleagues would consider their rights of privacy so sacred that they would give themselves a right that everyday Americans don't have. But these United States citizens who will be testifying today were violated so brutally and radically in their rights, and yet they have no effective remedy. I am honored to welcome all of you here.
For these 5 testifying today, it's a chance to use what might be the only real power they have right now, their story.
I was preyed upon. They were proud to have captured me.
I told them multiple times I have my passport. I had my passport with me.
They placed me on suicide watch. Light stays on 24/7. You're stripped naked and put in a hospital gown. A guard watches. A guard watches you constantly. I remained in those conditions from Friday morning until the moment I was released. My family had no idea where I was. I was released without explanation and without a single charge.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Andrea Velez. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm an LA native. I am the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants and a graduate of Cal Poly Pomona. From my parents, I learned the values of kindness, respect, and integrity, and those lessons continue to guide me in everything I do. I bring with me an education, a strong work ethic, and a commitment to doing what is right. We need action and we need justice. Thank you.
Thank you all. This hearing is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That was wonderful. Thank you.
About a month later, standing for the first time in the exact location where her unexpected journey began, there is a mix of emotions.
I feel a little anxiety because I haven't been here. I try to avoid this area as much as I can. It doesn't bring any good memories, or it just reminds me of what happened that day.
And even though this American citizen is no longer facing a felony charge, Andrea nowadays rarely feels safe outside her home, but said this moment was necessary.
Why was it so important for you to come back here today?
I think, I guess, to return like a sense of closure for myself, and try to like figure a way to move on from this in any capacity that I can.